No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey, gardeners. Hope you're all having a great week. I'm just out here. We finally got some snow, and a pretty good amount of snow. It's continuing to snow throughout the day. Now this started very late, early this morning, I suppose. And yeah, nice coating of white snow. A little late in the winter, but nice to see. I was worried we might not get to see any here in the valley, but here it is. All right, everybody, let's get snowing. All right, all my passionate plant people, garden enthusiasts. Welcome to the Let's Get Growing show. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and thank you for joining us here on the Urban Gardener channel. And great to see you. Great to have you here. We got a really, really great show ahead for you today. We've got Vikram Baliga, the plant professor, the Plant Prof. Vikram Baliga joining with us here just a little bit later on in the show. So you'll want to stay tuned for this really great conversation. Vikram's a professor over at Texas Tech University and teaches all about gardening, agriculture, all that sort of stuff. We're going to dig into it. He busts garden myths and things like that. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about all of that as well too. So it'll be great to have Vikram back on the show again here just a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned for that. And here in just a few minutes too, we're going to be talking with our sponsor, Charles Malky over at Ivy Organics. It is February. So every February over at Ivy Organics, at least for 8 years now, they do their free fig cutting giveaway. So we are going to talk with Charles a little bit about that and some other things growing on there over at Ivy Organics. So great to catch up with Charles here a little bit as well too. And yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell, I am not quite. I was mentioning this last Sunday. I got on and we did a live stream last Sunday and yeah, I've got really dragged down. I've had a really awful cold or something the last week or so, more than a week. I mean, it's been a long time. This thing is holding on to me. So I don't know if you can quite tell. I am not quite 100%. I think maybe around 80, 75, somewhere around there. So we'll still do all right, though. Everything should be just fine, and we'll have a really great show anyways. Again, thank you, everybody, for joining with us here today. And if you can here too, like I said, at the top of the show, hit the thumbs up, click that like button and the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams, as well as share with all of your garden friends out there. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show. And yeah, and also a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching our replay. Thank you so much for taking your time to follow along with us here on the Let's Get Growing show and watching us on your time. I know it's great to have all of you here live with us, but I know some of you can only catch up with us sometime later in the week or whenever, but it's really, really great to have you. Definitely get down into the comment section below. Let me know you're here watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you got any questions, comments, or any suggestions as well, too. I'd love to hear about anything, or just drop in and say hi. I'd love to hear from you. So thanks again. And if you are here with us live right now, definitely get into the chat there and join in with the chat, as well as drop any comments or questions you might have. Questions in big, bold capital letters. Whoops, sorry about that. Big, bold capital letters so that I can see those from the regular chat, and then we can get those questions asked and answered right here on the show, especially when we get our guests later on too. if you got any questions for them, definitely drop those into the chat as well. And follow all the links down below in the description. We got links to our guests and all of that as well, our social media and everything. So definitely go check all of that out. Again, thank you all so much for being here today, and really great to have you all joining with me. Not much going on, as you saw at the very beginning there, at the very beginning clip. It's been snowing, Nick. We had a big, huge snowstorm here in Southern Oregon. It was really nice to see. And really, actually, um, the winter right before I started this channel 8 years ago, 8 years ago, really hard to believe. But that winter, I started the spring right after that winter of basically 2017. And that was the last winter we really had any significant snowfall like what we got here in the valley this week. So that was really nice to see. Really kind of crazy. All of us around here having to figure out again how to drive around and figure out how to get around in the snow and everything, because it's been a while for us. Used to be all the time. Every winter we would get a really good significant snowfall. You know, you got to shovel the walkways and plow off the streets and roads and all that sort of stuff. But that's something we've actually over the last, like I said, 7, 8 years now, have been kind of not getting not used to. And so it was really kind of something to see. I mean, we've had some snowfall each winter. We get some sort of snowfall here in the Rogue Valley where I live. It's a big valley, so on the valley floor, we get some sort of snowfall, but usually it snows. It's a really nice, cool evening of snow. And then by the next day, it's all melted away, basically. And that's been kind of what our snowfalls have been like, at least for where I am in the valley. Around me, we got hills and all that. They get some snow most years as well, too. But nothing like what we just saw this last week. That was pretty wild. So again, kind of holding off any sort of plans for me getting outdoors and doing any sort of the chores and things that I've been planning on getting outside and starting to do in the garden spaces. There's a lot of kind of catching up to do, you know, and winter chores and getting ready for the spring growing season. As I've mentioned over the last week or so, we've got all of our pepper seeds started. I've got onion seeds started. I've got other things that we've got going, some greens and some brassicas and some different things like that that I've got going as well too. So we've got a bunch of things that are right in the process. We're just really getting geared up for growing and everything. So again, so just kind of a really unproductive week though when it comes down to it. I did a few things indoors here, but that was about all I could get to. And that on top of just being just really, like I said, I had this cold and so I haven't, you know, I'm one of those type of people. I mentioned this last Sunday too. I'm one of those guys that, you know, when you get a cold and you get sick, I get whiny and I get real unproductive. And so that's been kind of my week so far. So, and yeah, so excuse me there. All right, everybody, let's see who we got here today. I can see everybody's already starting to chat it up already in the chat there. And again, sorry for getting late start again too. Just like I said, so many things going on. And it's just one of those weeks. We'll get everything together. Like I said, we're gonna have a great show. And let's say hi to Jay Dixon right here, right at the top of the show, our facilitator in the chat, dropping all the great links and everything, joining us from Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Jay, for joining with us here. And let's see here. Oh, we got Rick joining us nice and bright and early from the future in Australia. He says, no notifications on YouTube again. You're having issues with the notifications. Oh, maybe what you should do is, and maybe you can, you know, try to like unsubscribe and then resubscribe and re-hit it and just kind of re-kick the process again. And maybe that'll help out a little bit as far as that goes. That's something you could try there. I see Rob join us all the way from the other side of the globe in England up there. Thank you, Rob, for joining with us today. Great to see you. Oh, and Tony from Simplified Gardening. Right on, right on. Way to go, way to go. UK showing up today. Excellent. Awesome. See Jersey Girl there as well in the house. Awesome to see you. Serena, great to see you here. All right. Excellent. And let's see here. See Dusty Flats. Well, again, are you following me? Like the "Are you following me" segment. Yeah. Right on, right on. Yeah. This week we're following basically for our "Are You Following" segment. We've got Charles joining with us here in just a couple of minutes to talk about the free fig cutting giveaway that they have each year at Ivy Organics. So we look forward to that here in just a minute as well too. Let's see here. Yikes, yikes. Yep, yep. Let's see here. Oh, Darth X is in there saying it's snowing right now, Vancouver Island. Ooh, man. Yep, yep. I've had enough. I mean, I've had enough snow in my life. I've lived in some pretty. I lived up in Alaska for quite a while. I've seen a lot of snow, so it's good to see. It's great for us, and you know what I mean. And we want to have good snowfall each year. It's really helpful in the summertime when it comes to wildfires and that sort of stuff. So it's really great to see. But I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of snow at all, really, to tell you the truth. So I've been again too almost fortunate that I've had a cold and I could kind of just tuck myself away in the house and hide away over the last few days. Sam says, "I'm liking that hat." Oh yeah, excellent. You like this one? Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. I really, really like this one here. Let's see. Tony said it snowed here last night, but it was gone by this morning. Yeah. That's usually what it's like for us. We like I said, we'll get a snow and again, maybe we'll get to wake up to just a little bit of it in the morning, a nice cool morning, but by the afternoon, it's pretty much just melted all away. Let's see. Mobius says that she's got about a foot. Oh wow, wow, and here to stay. Oh my, yeah. Yeah, it's so warm around here though too. Really warm around here. Um, Still, so we had just a really kind of cold snap for this last week, some snowing, and then it's just really kind of warm, and so it's starting to melt away already. So, I mean, there's still plenty out there. There's plenty out there right now. Let's see here, Janet. Awesome, great to see you, Janet. Thanks for joining with us today. Right on, right on. We're gonna get moving along here today. I see Mill Creek in the conversation as well. Great to see you. Mushrooms still doing really good. All right, everybody. So we're gonna take a quick break here, real quick, and then we'll get right back at it here in just one moment. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivy Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Hi everyone, this is Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop, here with another trivia question. On average, cauliflower is cold tolerant down to what temperature? A, 25 degrees Fahrenheit, B, 20 degrees, C, 15 degrees, or D, 10 degrees. We'll be back with the answer a little later in the show.
So, all right. So, you know how cold cauliflower can go down to? Put your guesses there in the chat, and Sarah will answer that question here just a little bit later on in the show. And right on. And let's see here. I wanted to check on something here real quick. Oh, I should have had this one ready. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah, I was gonna see a comment here. Mobius is saying right here, snow means stay inside and drink hot chocolate. That's exactly what it meant for me this week, for sure. Lots and lots of hot chocolate this week, for sure. Great to see everybody again today. And all right. Let's get moving along today. Like I said, we got a fun little Are You Following Me this week? We're catching up with our sponsor, Ivy Organic. Charles Malky's joining with us here today. So let's get moving along.
Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
All right. There's Charles. Welcome to the show. Great to see you. Great to have you back on.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having us back, Enoch.
Absolutely. Of course. You know, we got to do that, especially now that it's February, right? I mean, February means we've got the free fig cutting giveaway, right?
Absolutely.
I got the banner right here for you. There we are.
Oh, thanks I didn't think you'd get it up in such short notice, but
there we go.
Yeah, shockingly, it's our 8th year as a company. We're in our 10th year right now. And with the free fig cutting giveaway, it was something that I wanted to share with all of our YouTube subscribers as a way to say thank you for following us and being a part of the dialogue. And within a matter of about 2 to 3 years, Ivory Organics quickly rose to become America's leading garden product YouTube channel, which now we've got over 200,000 subscribers, and our views are ahead of pretty much any other gardening product in the country, which is kind of mind-blowing. And we're always so very grateful to our beginning audience. And I still have strong relationships with a lot of those people. And Enoch, you were there with us in that first, probably second or third year of our company, and I've watched us grow, and we've watched you grow as well. And it's been a fun journey, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, as you know, like I said, we just did our affiliate meeting this week and everything, and I was saying that there as well too, that when I got started on this whole journey with this show and everything, it was because of that great relationship between you, our channel, the Urban Gardener, and Ivy Organic, and your company, everything since the very beginning. I was just mentioning just a few minutes ago too that we're for the channel, the Urban Gardener channel, on our 8th year as well too. And it was in that very first year that I made one of my first trips to Los Angeles, it was at the beginning of my 2nd year. And that's when I got to meet you as well too. So we've been going pretty much all along together, and been a fun journey so far.
Absolutely. So with the free fig cutting giveaway, we started again actually 9 years ago. And the 2nd year after shipping 100 fig cuttings to our subscribers, I kind of got burnt out in year 2. And it was in year 3 that one of our donors reached out to me and said, Charles, what's going on with the free fig cutting giveaway? There's a lot of people across the country that have marked their calendars February 1st, and I try to publish it I can at midnight. It takes a while sometimes to upload those videos on YouTube and get all the text and images already. This year was like the latest. It took me somewhere closer to about 2 a.m. to finally get all the platforms populated simultaneously for people to participate and learn and being a part of the excitement. For us as a company, and having done it, let me go back in history. So we did the 1st year, we took the 2nd year off, and the 3rd year, one of my donors, and you'll see him in the Ivy Organics YouTube channel latest post, which was done on February 1st. You'll see the free fig cutting giveaway graphic. You'll see in the video description below close to 50 varieties that we've so far accumulated. Last year, I think we got closer to 80 varieties of fig cuttings. Again, they're sourced from all over America. All of them are known quality variety figs. And I'm going to show you in just a minute a little sneak peek of what this looks like. But in our 3rd year, someone reached out to me and said, hey, Charles, I've got strawberry figs for you. And these are figs that taste like strawberries, believe it or not. He's got a raspberry latte fig, So again, now you've got, purplish looking fig with raspberry, berry flavored interior. So raspberry latte, strawberry bird. And he gave me a couple other varieties, and he's like, Charles, I've got them all pruned and ready to go. They're yours if you just come down and pick them up. And it was the third year, but now the second free fig cutting giveaway. From that, it created a giant wave. And since then, we've kind of been shackled to this giveaway. And it has Ivory Organics, like as a website, like for ivoryorganics.com, it's like the best selling month of the year is February. Like, I would say hugely in part because of the free fig cutting giveaway. And the way it works is we still give away a free fig cutting giveaway to everyone. I'm going to share with you. I don't know how many more minutes do we have. How are we doing time?
We got some time.
So, so every year we give away free fig cuttings every day to just people that want to participate, share the excitement, no purchase necessary. Again, all the rules you can find on ivoryorganics.com or in the video description to the YouTube explanation that I did as well. So every day we still do that. So in February, there's 28 days. There'll be 28 winners, free shipping, USA. Pick your variety, and we'll do our best. And usually we recommend everyone to give us your top 3, and I'll do my best to hopefully get one of those top 3 to you. I was looking on eBay just a minute ago at fig cuttings, just to let you know, fig cuttings minimum price is about $8 to $10 for a cutting. And the prices can go up to $100+ each. So again, depending on the variety, we include them for free with also any of the Ivory Organic brand products that you purchase. In addition to, we also have a lot of plants now every winter for about the last now 4 consecutive years. As most people are not thinking about gardening, it's the peak season for Dave Wilson Nursery, which is the leading distributor of deciduous fruit trees in the country. We amass like thousands of plants that keep us through the winter busy, basically as a representative of the Dave Wilson Nursery in regards to getting, again, they're the leading distributor of deciduous fruit trees in the country. They know what they're talking about. I've been to their farms and Zager orchards where they get some of the best hybrid variety flavor fruits in the world. And some of the plants that I have here behind me include this one here is called a Sunshine Blue. All the Sunshine Blues right now are blooming because here we are in Los Angeles, and it's truly like after the last chance of frost date passes here, which is that last week of January, everything wakes up. And that's also another reason why we do the fig cutting giveaway in February 1st, because for us, between February 1st and March 1st, all of our fig trees here in Southern California are leafing and beginning, the Breba crop and so forth. So again, that's why like by February 1st, most of the fig cuttings have already been, collected and ready for disbursement throughout America. So there's blueberries, there's several varieties. Pomegranate trees, they kind of look like this right now, but you can maybe see they're beginning to leaf out as well.
Yeah, coming to life.
So pomegranates, the popular store variety is known as Wonderful. It's got a medium, crunchy, seed. All the other varieties of pomegranates we make available, Desertini, Ariana. There's a couple other varieties. They're virtually seedless. They've got such a small, soft seed in there, and the flavors that rank even higher than common Wonderful varieties you find at the store. So if you're interested in a Wonderful, if you're interested in a pomegranate, I highly encourage you guys to look at the other softer, smaller seed varieties. You and your family will love it compared to the expected, Wonderful varieties that are in all the stores across America. And then we've even got, I know I mentioned deciduous fruit trees. We've even got olive trees too this year. So from the common mission olive, which you'll find obviously surrounding all the missions here in California, and it's considered a California native olive as well. So mission olive, Albertina, Manzanillo, and then there's grapevines, blueberry grapes, and so forth. So be sure to check out the plant store as well. There's still like thousands of plants to choose from, and fig cuttings will be included with all that. And then I just want to show what this looks like so you get an idea of visual. I haven't shared this with anyone, but one of our California rare fruit growers in San Diego just delivered us these cuttings.
My.
Take a look at the size of Okay. And then each one of these, is a cutting off of her. This is known as a Panache Tiger variety fig. And if you
Oh,
take a
wow.
look closely at the bark, you should be able to see the variegation in the bark. That's which you know, most people that are familiar with Panache can tell just from the bark the variegation that you'll see in the younger growth. By the second year, it turns more brown. And just check out those buds. Again, look at how like full of life and everything.
Yeah.
So we pretty much cut these down to about this size.
Yeah.
And then score it like so. So you can see that actually increases the surface area. Most of the roots will actually come from that scored end. We then use either a rooting powder or gel. This one here, using just Clonex, which is pretty popular. Most people prefer the gel over the powders, and that cut end is dipped into that purple gel. We then get a paper towel like that to basically encapsulate it. We take a little bit of water and spray, about 2 sprays, and then just wrap that all up like so, and put it in the bag, put a rubber band over it, and you'll end up with, and here are the labels. See the Panache Tiger figs?
Yeah.
Once it's done, it'll look like this, and eventually we'll have a box of fig cuttings, about 30 of these that we can now begin shipping. But we've got about 50 of these already prepared with about a dozen to 20 varieties in each of those boxes. And as you select your fig cuttings, we'll go from there. What I want to make available to those watching here right now, and I'd say for the day, and I'm going to announce within the next 24 hours our winner. I want to get
we got a contest
community involved. If you can actually share, and I want this specifically for you and the Let's Get Growing community. For those watching, if you can take that image of the free fig cutting giveaway and tag 2 of your gardening friends or family members, and on Instagram or Facebook. And again, this is all on the Let's Get Growing platform, not Ivory Organics. Ivory Organics has got one too. If you want to participate there, I'd appreciate it. But I'm simply looking at those that are playing on the Let's Get Growing platform. I'm going to include you guys within the next 24 hours. I'll be doing the announcement and reaching out and specifically calling you out, one on Instagram and one on Facebook, for those of you that hopefully have those social media platforms. And you can also let us know that you're participating by writing in the comments here below the video, and let us know that you're interested, and I'll be looking for you here and then looking on Instagram and Facebook to find you, and I'll be calling out a winner within the next 24 hours from this platform as well. So kind of our way to encourage and continuously grow our audiences on both platforms.
Excellent. Like I said, we got links all down below in the description there, even for Ivy Organics and all of that as well too. Oh yeah, look at you. You're prepared there, Charles. You got it there. I think I got one.
You want to say it or you want me to say it?
I think I got one here myself. I don't know where it's at.
So before you check out, if you use GROW10, which is Enix code, you basically get 10% off your entire order, free shipping included when you go to ivorganics.com. So GROW10 is the link. You'll find it in, I basically see it below almost all your YouTube videos as well. So it'll always be there for you and your, to share with the other gardening community as well. And we appreciate, again, Enix support for so many years. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to write me on. I love writing off of Instagram, or you can email me at info@ivorganics as well, and you can find that email link. It all comes directly to me.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, right on. So basically, all you got to do is go and check out or make a comment or something down on our Instagram and our. Which I'll make a post right after the show as well too, so people can catch up there as well too through Instagram and Facebook. We got our group and all the links down below in the description.
Awesome.
Right on, Charles. Well, thanks a lot, and again too, really fun kind of event. I love getting some of those fig cuttings. I've got a few of them growing now over the last few years, growing around the gardens as well too. So I'm really looking forward to a few of them this year. I've got several that have already started producing last year. So again,
Awesome.
one of my new favorite things basically since I met you is figs, and it's really fun to see all of these different varieties. I mean, it's amazing to think about how many there are, and then to see you give them away through this contest and all of that too as well. Well, it's not really a contest. This is just to go and order something, right? And you just get it.
It's just our cool way to kick off spring. Again, for
Yeah.
those who live in a southern climate, like February, like we're all getting excited. You can
Yeah.
start planting your tomatoes and peppers. You can start doing quite a bit here starting in the month of February. I know 80% of the country's still on standby for about another month or two, but for those of you, again, across the southern regions of the United States, you're going to see your plants waking up in the next 30 days. So it's the beginning of the year, and there's a lot to do and a lot of excitement. And how cool it is that this little stick can become another fig tree, asset producing quality fruit, for your family to enjoy for hundreds of years. The average life of a fig is a little over 200 years. So I know my grandfather, when he passed, and a lot of people, I'm not the only one, they usually take cuttings from that home, and figs is another way to kind of just perpetuate the legacy and the memory. And for me, it's really been exactly that. I've got in my backyard a Hilda's honey green fig. Hilda's the name of my mom. In every home of the 10 homes I've lived in the last almost 50 years, like those cuttings follow me wherever I go. So that first fig I grew up eating, I can enjoy for the rest of my life, and all the people that want to enjoy it. Personally, it's my favorite. It's a green fig, peels easy. I know most people love to eat figs whole with their skin and all. Even though I found out also there's some fig varieties that are not, I don't want to say not edible, but the skin sometimes like offensive tasting and or too thick. But again, this variety, I personally, again, I was brought up peeling figs. It's cut, and I know for some people it sounds taboo. It's like, why would you peel an apple before you eat it? But that I don't do. I do eat, apples with my skin, but for figs, I love peeling them before I eat them to really just enjoy the flavor of the fruit, not necessarily the skin. And so the Hilda's honey green fig is an easy green peeling fig, delicious honey based flavor. And then there's the Grandpa Saman fig, which is another variety. Again, those are the ones I grew up with in my first 10, 15, 20 years before I got introduced to the thousands of fig varieties that actually exist. So, and you'll learn a lot from me on my channel relating to figs. The Fig Hunter is another expert in the field. And Phil's Fig, who you met, on a platform a few days ago. And I know he's been on this channel as well, right?
Yep.
Have you had him here?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So
him and Destin from the Garden Party podcast.
Exactly. I just want to make sure you knew the group. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that really center their life around the value of what a fig tree can be in the backyard orchard. And for those of you that don't have it, please, get connected to us. And we'd love to be a part of your 2025 growing successes.
Yeah. And another thing too is because you were mentioning also too, there's some people up north still kind of waiting a couple of more months before they really get going. But maybe some of them are wondering, well, can I grow figs? Because of how cold it is where they live and everything. This is gonna be a perennial tree. So
great question.
There's varieties out there they can grow, right?
So one of the this is one, but Phil's Figs, he shared with us when we were in the last group a few days ago. There's more varieties, but Chicago Hardy is one of the classic common varieties of figs that are, again, they're from Chicago. I'm sure is where it was discovered, and it's one of the most cold hardy of the fig varieties. Again, there are more that are in the hardy category of figs, but regardless of your climate, even if you're in Alaska, you can actually still grow figs in containers. Basically, as long as you store them in your garage during the coldest months and pull it out for spring and summer, assuming you have enough months, and now you got to focus on the varieties. There's some that push out brebo crops, which means for your figs, if you take a look at the cutting, some of these nodes you would assume are going to push out leaves. Sometimes you'll actually see a double, like this one here is leaf and fruit. So it's got like a
Mhm.
double note in there. And some of these, here's another one. So some of these will push out with fruit as soon as the leaves are pushing out. And then that's actually your first crop of figs known as the breba crop. And typically it's not the tastiest of the crop, but for those that have a very short growing season, the goal is to find out which fig varieties have the best breba crop, that first crop. And then when you grow and then if you've got a longer season for the main crop, that's typically the more sweeter, larger, better tasting figs. But again, by growing figs in containers, you can virtually grow figs in any climate.
Yeah. And I love some container gardening myself. Right on, right on. Well, excellent. So I hope everybody goes and takes part in the free fig cutting giveaway at ivyorganics.com. Like I said, we got a link right down below. If you go to ivyorganics.com, though, be sure to use our promo code GROW10, GROW10. Right on. Thanks again for joining with us today, Charles. Really great to have you. Always good to see you and to catch up with what's going on. In fact, real quick before we let you go, I wanted to really kind of mention too, because we were talking a couple of weeks back when this was really going really, you live right there in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
right out of the Hollywood area there. How affected were you by a lot of those fires coming through?
So, I mean,
because I know that's got to be right up in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah. So the Palisades fires started first, and then within a day or two was when you probably saw on TV. It was the Hollywood Hills. They later changed the name to the Sunset Fire. That was within about 1.5 miles of our house. So it was close enough to scare the hell out of all of us here.
Bet, yeah.
Half of our community evacuated. We were on standby in regards to mandatory evacuation. My whole family was packed and ready to go at the door. They're ready to load the car. I'm like,
yeah.
I was on the phone about every 20 to 30 minutes with the captain of the local fire station, thanks to our, again, and for those of you watching, when it comes to community and volunteering and getting involved, and Enoch and I, our relationship also started at 1 Million Drops in Hollywood as well, where we're volunteering with a homeless, center there and teaching them how to grow and care for plants. And there's a passion fruit fence, if you remember, that's still there right now.
I bet it's wild.
So now it's about 200 feet. It covers about 200 linear feet of fence. So you can imagine multiplied by the 6 feet tall. It's solid green, and they say they're harvesting hundreds of passion fruit on a weekly basis. That's feeding the homeless and the surrounding community that know behind this hidden gem of a fence.
Yeah. And that garden's okay too, out of all of that as well then.
Yeah, that's all good. But my point is, within the last 2 years, we as a community got involved with a local fire station and built a garden for them with fruit trees and vegetables and California native landscapes and so forth. And because of that effort that our community made, the firefighters were particularly well connected to the community, myself included, and keeping us like with seconds of detailed information in regards to what we had to do or not do in order to keep our homes and ultimately our lives safe. So it was scary, but obviously my house is still here. Family's still here, and luckily with our amazing firefighters, it did burn about 40 to 50 acres, but not a single structure burned. Like they basically surrounded the open area and protected the real estate.
Oh, well, that's great.
We were truly blessed that even with those like 80-mile-per-hour winds, they were able to protect all the structures.
Yeah, right on. Got one more good fig question real quick popped in here before we let you go.
Sure.
Sam jumped in and asked, how many seasons before figs start fruiting? So like if they got one of those cuttings from you, how long should they expect before they start getting some fruit off of those?
So I know for a lot of you that have experience with figs and have been doing this, and probably yourself included as well, I've experienced times where I would take this cutting and by summer it's fruiting. It will happen because the wood is mature wood, like the Panache Tiger fig. I can quickly see, you guys can Google it as well, but the Panache Tiger fig original tree, enter. I was trying to find like the year, but anyway, some of these trees are like 80, 100, 150 years. I remember like the Meyer lemons, Eureka lemon specifically is about 130 years old. So when you take a cutting, and you can do this with citrus as well, you take a cutting off of a Eureka lemon that's about 130 years, if my memory serves me right, the original parent plant. And that wood, the genetics, is 130 years old, or this Panache Tiger fig, I'm assuming, is at least 50, if not, more years. So the point is, when you plant it, it's mature wood compared to had it been a fig seedling. The seedling, on the other hand, could take, as most of you know, for fruit trees, it can be as little, if you get lucky, 3 to 4 years. And on the other spectrum, it could be 7 to 10 years. So you're waiting for the seedling to mature. This is already mature wood. So potentially you can have fruit in the first year. If it tries to fruit, and actually I've seen, and this happens a lot, I think even on the Ivory Organics YouTube channel, you'll see me rooting figs, and then it pushes out leaves and it pushes out fruit immediately. In the first year, it's advisable to always remove the fruit so the plant can focus on the vegetative growth and rooting, and not let it waste its resources on fruiting, because it will take a ton of energy away from the potential growth and establishment. So first year, keep the fruit off. I would say by year 2, if the plant looks strong and healthy enough and you want it to give some fruit, go for it. So, so really within a year or 2, I would say, even if it gives you fruit that first year, don't let it. But year 2, have at it.
Yeah. Serena also asked real quick, last question. How long do the cuttings stay viable? So if you got those, how long until you can actually, keep them before you actually start planting them out or whatever?
Hey, so let's say if I were to send this to you, Enoch, you're in Washington and you're still about Oregon, sorry about that. And you're north of me. So, but even there, you're still at least 30 to 60 days out from your last day of frost date to pass. What you can do is you can take your cutting and store it in a dark, cold corner of your garage and just let it sit there for a month or 2 without issue. Some people, because you saw me spraying it, the fact you're adding moisture to it, now it can potentially rot. What some people will do is take their fig cuttings and basically even using a dilute bleach solution or even with soap, clean it, dry it, and then store it like in the crisper of your refrigerator, as long as it doesn't freeze in there. Because sometimes the refrigerator, often will start freezing. That'll damage the tissues of your cutting. But as long as you keep it stored in a like 40, 50, 55, degree area, it's not going to germinate. It's not going to root. It's not going to do anything until you're ready to either use the cutting for rooting or grafting as well. So consider this wood as grafting wood, and that's something I've taught like 10 years ago as well on our channel. Our grandpa Saman fig tree that was about 25 feet tall. I pruned it down to about 6 inches off the ground, had it branch out the first 5 branches, and grafted those 5 branches with 5 flavors of figs. And then each of those branches made another branch, and I grafted another 5 flavors on that. So I've got a total of 10 figs sitting in the footprint of just a single fig. And through continuous pruning, I've managed to keep its size under 12 feet when it naturally wants to be about 25 plus feet.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, those are some great questions popping in there last minute. Thank you, everybody, for dropping in there and getting those questions out. That was really great. And again, thank you, Charles, for joining with us today. Like I said, it's always great to catch up with you and see what's going on over at Ivy Organics. And like I said, everybody, go and check out that free fig cutting giveaway down at Ivy Organics. I got a link down below in the description. And there you are. Exactly. Use the promo code GROW10 and get yourself some of these fig cuttings. Start growing some figs right there in your garden this year. So right on. Thanks again, Charles. It was great to see you, and we'll see you again real soon.
And thank you all, and wishing you all the best growing season ever. Happy gardening.
Excellent. All right.
Take care.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
The answer to this week's trivia question is A. Cauliflower can take some pretty cold temperatures, but it's not quite as frost tolerant as many other brassicas. For example, cabbage can take temperatures as low as 20 degrees, kohlrabi as low as 5 degrees, and kale can withstand temperatures down to 0 degrees or even lower. Thanks for watching. Head over to Sarah's Seed Shop where you can find garden seeds at unbeatable prices. Enjoy the rest of the show and have a great day.
All right, all right, all right. Did you get Sarah's trivia question right there? And yeah, that was a good question this week. And if you can, definitely, like I said, link down below to Sarah's Seed Shop there. Go and support Sarah there at her fantastic seed shop. Like I said, you're not going to find a better value for essential garden seeds than you will at sarahseedshop.com. And go and get some for your garden that you could be growing up this season. Got to get everything going. Like I was saying, we're starting to get seeds started already for things, a lot of indoor stuff that will get moving outdoors and all of that. So we got a lot of things coming up and everything real soon here. So you'll want to make sure you get all of your seeds. All right, everybody. Well, let's get moving right along today. We've got a really, really great featured guest for you today on the show, returning actually to the show this week. So let's see what we got for our featured guest today.
You never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire. Please welcome my next guest.
All right. Like I said, returning back to the show, we've got Vikram Baliga from the Plant Prof joining with us here today. Vikram, great to have you back. Thanks again for taking your time to be with us today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. So, like I said, back on the show again. How's everything been going since we saw you last here?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when that was. Last summer, maybe? I'm trying to. It's been a minute.
Yeah. I think it was this last summer.
Yeah, everything's good. We're just getting into another semester and having a real weird winter here. So it's
having a weird winter. Oh, you're down in Texas, right? So,
I am.
Yeah. So what's winter been like for you? I've been kind of talking about our last week here. We just dealt with a massive snowstorm where I'm at. So
see, we went the other way. It's about 83 degrees right now.
Oh wow.
I think we hit 91 on Tuesday, Monday, earlier this week.
Yeah.
And then the high tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, is like 40. We'll have lows in the low 20s. And so, we've got trees waking up, we've got stuff coming out of dormancy, and probably gonna be a weird year for winter kill, bad year for winter kill.
Yeah. Winter killed meaning like it's they come alive and then get frozen back again because winter's not done with them yet.
Yep. We have fall, spring, and most of our perennial plants that are cold hardy in an area are gonna go dormant, stay dormant, whatever, until winter's over, until spring comes around. But if you're somewhere like I am, we get a lot of ups and downs in the winter, and it's getting worse. And so, like, a lot of times we'll lose trees or branches on trees. It's real hard on fruit trees for sure.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Yeah,
I mean, we're doing our best.
I live in an area where there's not as many of those orchards as there used to be, but lots of pears. Lots of pears here in the Rogue Valley, and you can drive around in some of the older orchards, and you'll still see these what are they called, smelt pots or whatever. So it's because they have to keep things warm enough at certain times when things happen. So like they'll start coming out of dormancy. So at that point in time, any other cooler freeze or frosts could really damage the trees. So they got to keep those areas warm. So they got these little fires they got to keep going in these little pots all over the orchard.
Yeah, we have that here too. Not as much. I mean, we have some people that are doing it. We don't grow a ton of tree crops.
Right.
We do some nuts like pecans and things like that. We have apples that do pretty well. But we see it in our vineyards quite a bit. Um, and some of the big vineyards actually have big wind machines. Like they look like wind generators, but
Yeah.
the other way, right? Like they're big fans.
Right.
Stand 50 feet tall. And so on some of those mild frosts in the spring, where we're going to hit 28, 30, they'll crank those up just to keep the
Right.
frost from settling. It keeps the air moving, keeps it a little warmer. And
Yeah.
that can ride them through, sort of a mild March freeze or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Nothing real significant, but
Right. Right.
yeah.
5, 6 degrees below freezing, we can usually take. Much more than that, we'll lose crops, and it's tough. It's a tough place to grow perennial plants for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely. One strategy I thought about, maybe you can tell me a little bit about how this might work, but I was someone I was following along does peppers. I think they're down in Louisiana. So they've got a big pepper patch. They got all the peppers growing, and then they get this late frost that's supposed to be coming. So he's worried about all of his plants big time. So their solution was to go out in the evening and hose all the plants down and get them wet. And I was like, wait a minute, wait, you're gonna hose them down and get them wet when you're worried about frost? Isn't that gonna freeze them up? But this actually works differently, right?
So as
You would
water
think.
freezes, and
Yeah,
it's sort of counterintuitive, but as water freezes in ice, it
yeah,
actually releases heat into the environment around it, right? Because it's getting
yeah,
colder, it's transferring that heat. So if you
yeah.
can keep ice actively freezing, it stays right at around 32 degrees, right? It's
Oh,
right at that break point. And now it can get colder than that, right? If it stops actively freezing, then the temperature drops. So what we see is they do this in a lot of orchards. You'll see this in citrus quite a bit,
yeah,
especially in some just marginal areas for citrus. And they've got these big mist systems, and they'll put an ice coat on the trees. Um, Ice
yeah.
insulates well, water insulates well, and
Right.
so, if they're trying to get it through just a little bit of a freeze or whatever, that is viable. Now, you have to be careful with breakage on the plants. You've got to be careful with a lot of things.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, people do it in big operations. They put a lot into these
Yep.
pressure tanks and mist machines and stuff, and it's pretty effective.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, again, too, like you said, these are big, large operations. They've got a lot into what they're doing, so they gotta, take some really kind of sometimes what we would think is pretty extreme measures. I
Mhm.
mean, even thinking back of like these, little fire pots,
Yeah.
somebody's got to go around all night, make sure that these things are still going and everything. There's a lot of effort put into making sure that they're keeping these plants, from any sort of damage that could
Mhm.
affect their upcoming crops.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a tall order sometimes, but I tell people this a lot that when the option is between doing something like that or
Mm,
say maybe spraying a pesticide or whatever and losing your crop,
yeah,
usually you're going to choose to do the thing, whatever the thing is,
yeah,
even if it's not what you would really normally want to do.
mhm,
Um, I grow peaches, or I have grown peaches, in a sort of hobby farm kind of context, and we spray minimally. We do very little, like we'll fertilize and stuff, but as far as pesticides, insecticides, whatever, we do very minimal. But we had a
yeah,
bad sort of infestation of Asian fruit moth a few years ago, and like my
ooh,
option was spray a pesticide or not sell any peaches. And
mm,
you kind of have to make a choice there. So
right,
in those cases, you kind of, or at least my opinion is, you choose the least toxic thing from like a health standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, that will still do the job,
yeah.
and go with that. And then
Yeah, yeah. I
just
mean,
do
the
it as
choices
sparingly as
aren't really
possible.
good when it comes to like, especially larger scale agricultural projects for sure. You gotta really start. There's a lot of things you got to consider when
Yeah.
it comes down to it. Yeah, right on. So let's get in here. You professor down at Texas Tech University, right?
Hmm.
What is it? What is it that you teach down there? I mean, I know we probably covered this last time you were on a little bit, but
Yeah.
review for everybody. What is it that you teach down at the Texas Tech?
So I teach a couple of classes. This semester, I'm actually just teaching introductory horticulture. So
Okay.
it's sort of horticulture 101, non-majors, like science credit for anyone.
Right.
And then I also teach sustainable vegetable crops, sustainable
Okay.
vegetable crop production, and then sustainable fruit and nut crop production. So
Okay.
I'll teach vegetables in the fall, and then I'll be starting up with fruit and nut next spring.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And this is a part of a wider, larger agricultural program that a student would go through down there.
Yeah, so most of the students that are taking, especially my upper level stuff, are plant and soil science students studying horticulture specifically or crop science.
Okay.
And we are part of the College of Ag that does everything from the Davis College of Agriculture, which does everything from animal science, and that includes like livestock and companion animals like dogs and horses and whatever. We
Yeah.
have landscape architecture, natural resource management, ag communication and education and economics and business and
Wow. Yeah.
I'm leaving someone out. I'm gonna feel bad if I miss somebody. That's most of it.
hmm
I still think I'm forgetting one though.
It just brings up a lot of possibilities, and I thought this was one of the really kind of fascinating things, and why I like talking to people who are in education, gardening education, agricultural education. I went down, and someone I knew got on my social media many years ago, but a gentleman named Steve List down at Sylmar High School down in Sylmar, California, outside of Los Angeles, and he's got this really great ag program right out of this high school there at Sylmar. And I went to go visit him, did a video, and took a tour of this whole place that he's got. And this is for high school students, and they're learning all this sort of stuff, everything you can really think of. They've got a little mini orchard in there, all sorts of garden stuff. But one of the things I found was really kind of fascinating, or I thought was really cool in a sense, was especially at the high school level, for one, is this idea that we're teaching younger folks that there are jobs in plants. You know what I mean? So if this is just something you really like, you like nature, you like plants, you like that sort of thing, there's a lot of careers, a lot of jobs and things. And this is kind of Steve's, thing. And we talked a lot about that was this idea of, not just teaching kids about growing or plants or just kind of showing them, their connection with it, but that they can actually have a career. They can, kind of, live their life and make some money and enjoying a career in plants. And then that's kind of like, so for Steve, that's high school. You're the next step. This is where his high school students take the next step, is going to, say, your university and all that. But maybe you can expand on that a little bit more about the extent of the idea of careers that are out there when it comes to plants and agriculture and gardening.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's a great question. I again teach students from across the university. So I did just a little poll at the beginning of the semester, and I think I only have like maybe 10 students in my class, and it's a large class, that are actually in the ag college. Everyone else comes from across the university. And so I think that that's a big thing we cover. It's like, what can you actually do in horticulture, in agriculture? And I think people have this idea in their mind that it's like, oh, I'm going to spend my life like on a tractor or planting tomatoes or whatever.
Right.
And that's part of it, right? That is
Yeah.
a part of the field. But we've got people doing biotechnology and breeding and genetics and everything from computer science to electrical engineering and mechanical
Yeah.
and civil engineering that goes into it.
Yeah. For those who are really high tech and really in that mind frame of, that, there's a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and I think going forward, I was talking to a student a couple of weeks ago who's studying mechanical engineering right now, and she was thinking about, because she's really interested in plants. And it was, oh, should I change my major? I was like, the way that our industries are headed, having people that are passionate about nature and the environment, but that understand how to build things, that can design
Hmm.
better equipment and more efficient tools and processes. Like, we need those people. Like, we
Yeah.
need folks who sort of cross those boundaries between like engineering and
Yeah.
technology and the green fields, like green sciences. Um,
Yeah.
because I mean, that stuff's here, right? That stuff's what we're doing. And, you
Yeah.
think about the farmer from 50 years ago, right? And they're spending a day in a tractor, plowing, doing whatever it is they do. But it's very hands-on involved. And now we have tractors that are GPS driven and pretty much drive themselves.
I know. Yeah.
And we have younger farmers now taking over these operations that they're jumping in the tractor just to make sure it doesn't drive out in the highway, and they're doing research. They're on their phones. They're making social media content. They're
Yeah.
designing technologies. And so, like, the field has changed so much in the past, say, 20 years, that I think we need people that are excited about the future of it and excited about technologies and
Hmm.
taking some of these things in different directions.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot I think about, especially when it comes to like the future of farming, future of gardening, future of certain things when it comes down to it, and like you said, it's going to take a multifaceted group of people to be able to, think about and to design and to do the things that'll, implement things, that will, be the future of these sort of things. And you're gonna find these students in programs like yours, right?
Yeah, and I think so. Let me give you a good example. We're trying to work with a company right now that does um, sort of modular hydroponic systems. They're
Yeah.
like on these rolling racks, and then they all have like grow beds,
Mhm.
and then lights, and like each like rack has its own little modularized like
Right.
growing thing, and they're growing herbs and leafy greens and some root veggies and all kinds of other stuff. And like, we want students to learn about that. And you think about all the sort of empty, abandoned space we find in urban centers, like old downtowns, and like we could be growing food in those places. All you need is some water and some power, and you can do. Driving a tractor is kind of fun, Garth. Like, I think there is something to that.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
but yeah, so like, there's
Love
so
it.
many cool opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Again, too, like I said, when I think about some of that futuristic stuff, and the sort of you're talking about there, and I've seen plenty of these. In fact, I think it'd be just really fascinating to go and do a video or go visit one of these places where it's just a warehouse, and they just got stacks and stacks going up and lanes of all these just lighted aisles, just growing all sorts of stuff on all these different levels and everything. And this is fitting and meeting needs in places and areas, that as far as food production is concerned, and in a really futuristic way that we wouldn't have normally thought about farming before.
Mhm.
And just really fascinating, these sort of technologies and where things are heading. And again, too, in fulfilling certain needs in
Mhm.
areas too, where food production is moving further and further away from, their city centers and all of that.
Well, and I think it's becoming clear, or it should be becoming clear to people over the past few years, that
Yeah.
our very like decentralized, or very, let me say it differently, our very, in some ways, centralized food system, where um, we have one part of the country that grows one thing and another part of the country that grows another, or we bring stuff in internationally. Like,
Yeah.
that's a fragile system.
Mhm.
When we have issues with, say, a big pandemic or labor issues or whatever,
Yep.
like, our food supply is at risk. And so I think, I don't think that's going away. I think we're going to keep growing things where they grow well. So if it's,
Yeah.
tomatoes in Mexico, they do great there. We should grow them there.
Yeah.
If it's, leafy greens in southern Arizona and the Salinas Valley in California or wherever, like, we should keep
Yep.
growing those things there. But I think we also do need to think about, how do we decentralize our food system and regionalize our food system, so
Mhm.
that, if one person, if one of those Jenga blocks gets pulled out of our food system, there's other
Yeah.
things holding the tower up. And so I think a controlled environment production, whether that's in greenhouses or high tunnels or old
Yeah.
Walmarts that are shut down.
Yeah. See, there's another one I was thinking of. Yeah.
I think that there's so many cool opportunities to um, make us more resilient, our food ecosystem more resilient,
Hmm.
and help. I mean, it creates jobs. It teaches people about nature and about their food supply. All of
Yeah.
that is from a societal level such a net good. That I
Yeah.
think we should really be going after that more.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said too, or the idea is that cities grow and build, food production again is more farmland thing, so that gets moved away and everything. But this kind of reverse thinking again too, bringing food production back in towards where it's closest to where it's being consumed in a sense too. So that's why I kind of think it's really cool to think of these warehouses or I read something about like some old Walmarts or old like shopping warehouse like
Hmm.
places as well that using those for those sort of things as well too. But again too, it's just kind of bringing food production kind of back towards center though a little bit, as
Hmm.
much as we can, in a way to kind of, again, I think you brought a great point there too, is to just kind of maybe supplement or be there as a kind of a protection against something happening to the larger system.
Absolutely. And I think it's the same kind of reason we should try to home garden as much as we
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. Yeah.
And there's something, I think because of how social media is, I think we have to be careful sometimes with how we talk about home gardening. And let me qualify that a little bit. I think, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm a garden creator. I'm a person in the space. Of course, when I'm going to take a picture of my tomatoes, I'm going to take a picture of the best darn tomato in my backyard,
Yeah.
right? And I think sometimes we are, unfortunately, just as what we do, we send this message that oh, if you have one raised bed in your backyard, you can completely replace your vegetable supply. And
Right.
that's
Yes.
the goal for 99% of people home gardening should be to supplement, to grow
Hmm.
things you like, to have a little more control over what you're growing and how you're growing it and having fresh produce. Um, and not to think of it as a complete replacement for the grocery store, because we still
Yeah.
need that part of our food system,
Yep.
at least with the way that our food system exists. Um, and so, I think when we think about regional food markets, when we think about home gardens and community gardens and school gardens, and again, turning old warehouses into hydroponic facilities and all of this stuff, I think they're all pieces of the puzzle.
Yep.
And we've got this big puzzle, and we're still trying to figure out what the picture looks like at the end. But every little thing we can do matters because it's a piece in that puzzle. Um,
Yeah.
and the picture gets a little bit clearer every time. And I think that's for me, that's how I tend to look at urban horticulture and urban agriculture is
Yeah.
we're trying to give people good access, more equitable access, um, and just to help supplement and help out a little bit. That should be our goal, I think, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there's something I think about in this larger sense of things. There's again, and nothing against any of the other communities out there doing and what they're learning and all that, but you got these ideas of people, and you kind of touched on this just a little bit, where I'm growing a garden, and there's this sense of self-sufficiency.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That really, in the long run, the more you grow and the more you garden, you start to learn and realize that becomes something that gets further and further away. We
Mhm.
start out with this idea like, oh, I need to, grow everything myself because the food system's this, that, or whatever. And we find out, well, wait a minute, I can't grow everything myself and all of that.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of that sort of mentality when it comes to certain things too, in that sense of, fixing, I'm going to set myself up for when everything collapses, I'm going to be able to take care of and do everything myself. And I think there's a flaw in that thinking, and really when it comes down to it, and I've been touching on this a little bit over the last few weeks, and probably for the last couple of years even in some senses, but the more and more we understand things is community is really where
Absolutely.
it really comes down to things. We aren't so there is no real self-sufficiency. There's a channel called Anne from Anne of All Trades. She did a great video talking about this about a month or two ago, where, you know, it was just this idea, you know, and she had the same mentality, like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do all this and get things set up. I have all these animals and be able to take care of myself and all that. And that was what she realized, was that the more and more she did and the more she accomplished trying to get to that goal, the further and further it got away, and the more she realized that she needed others around her in order to really find that level of sufficiency that was going to be necessary. So we can't really think of like, well, everything's gonna collapse, and or any sort of thing happens to the food system or that sort of stuff, and then I can wall myself off from everything and be able to do that. What you really need to be doing is reaching out. And really, I think this is something we've got to get more in touch with, I think, as a larger society too. I think I'm taking this into a whole nother level, but but is this idea that we do need each other. We need more community and stuff. This is, you know, you look at the top of the screen here, this is what this whole show and this whole thing is. And I think we're really great at it as gardeners, is, you know, building community and that sort of thing. Because if things do have problems with these food systems, if there are issues that are larger than what we can really imagine and all that, we are going to need each other.
100%. Absolutely. I think thinking of it that way is right on. Like, you learn the skills you like can. I think that's great. I think we help teach others. I think we help. But at the end of the day, like, building community is the best thing you can do to be resilient, I think, in a society. And I like to, when I talk to my students about this, I sort of relate it to ecology, right? And I think because we're, you know, creatures that live on this planet, and we, like other creatures that live on this planet, do better in diverse communities in these like complicated, complex ecosystems. So like, if you have an ecosystem that has, like, say, two animals, you've got a predator like a frog and a prey animal like a mosquito. If that's all you have in the ecosystem, like, it's not going to last very long, right? Like, there's not enough diversity there. But then you start to add a few other predators, you start to add herbivores in, you start to add different prey animals like flies and other little insects and all these things. Ultimately, then, if one of those pieces kind of declines or whatever, you've still got all these other pieces to like prop up that ecosystem. And in a biological community, that's what we're thinking of. What are these interactions, interrelations between different species? And so I think you're right on when you say that the best thing we can do right now, as we're thinking about being more sufficient, taking more agency in our food and all of that, is go talk to your neighbors, right? Make some friends in your community. Look up where the local farmers are and local growers, and think about how can you support them in what they do. You know, go help out at a community garden, go clean up a park. Like, I think all of those things that may seem small independently, when we look at it in the big picture, we are developing a community that is really robust and really resilient. I think that that's how we get through a lot of the challenges we face, for sure.
And in the idea of just the simple garden system within a community, for, you know, for the average home gardener out there, is having a nice garden club, or like you said, get out and know your neighbors who are growing gardens as well too. And then you get in this idea what you're talking about with diverse people and different sense of what they're good at, in a sense. So you think about it as gardening, I might be better at growing tomatoes than my neighbor is, but they're better at growing this other thing. And we can kind of create almost a little network locally. So now let's talk about something happening to the system, right? Well, now we know each other and we know what we all do, and we're all growing things and all of that. We're going to have a little bit of an upper hand on everybody else because we've built that community ahead of time, instead of thinking, well, you know what, I'll just be okay if I got my little setup over here. Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm saying. Go get out there, you know, start some garden clubs and start getting to know your neighbors. And again, too, also, this is also another thing. A lot of great people sharing a lot of great knowledge about gardening. I've got to talk to tons and tons of them and all of that. But your best people that you're going to get the best gardening advice from are your neighbors as well. because, you know, especially the more experienced ones who've had some seasons under their belt and all of that, had a chance to try and grow different things and all of that. But it's your neighbors. They're the ones growing right there where you're trying to grow. They're right there closest to your climate, you know, and so that's really where it's at, is right there closest to home.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, look, I grow things. I live in Lubbock, Texas, and we have like the weirdest weather, right? This is such a, like, from a growing things standpoint, is such a weird place to try to do it. And so the things that work for me may or may not work for you, and definitely vice versa. And so, yeah, like getting to know people where you live that have been doing it,
Yeah.
that have, you know, I had a boss one time when I was an intern in college, who said, because we were kind of talking one day and about, like, you know, why we still do things like internships and all of that. And he was like, it is way better to go make your mistakes on someone else's dime.
Yeah.
And what he was trying, I guess what he was trying to tell me at the time was like, you know, I've done this for 20 years. Like, I know where some of the pitfalls are. So, like, if you come along with me, you'll learn where those are instead of stepping in them yourself. And
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, finding people that have been dealing with your local climate for a while,
Yeah.
are like, that's an invaluable resource, whether that's a neighbor or a master gardener association or your local university or whatever it is. Like, there's people out there that know stuff and that are probably willing to help you, and just go make friends. Like, it's, and then you have more friends, and that's never a bad thing.
That's exactly what we need in this world, though, too, at this time right now. I think this is a great time to be kind of focusing on kind of channeling back into that sort of thing, because, you know, we've all kind of, you know, social media's got its benefits. It's got a ton of really cool things about it. You know, some of it is really fun too, you know, and but there's also a lot it takes away from our regular everyday lives that we should be doing, and that's getting outdoors, getting out into maybe a community garden, or inviting other gardeners over to your garden, or finding ways to bring people together within your own community, so that you, again, like you said, we're making friends, we're knowing people, and then we're also getting to know each other too, because it's another thing that kind of happens when we get caught up in our phones and all of that, is we lose track of everybody else that's around us, and so we kind of lose that ability to really socialize properly.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the little
Right.
people that live in my phone, you know.
Exactly.
And like, you know, we wouldn't have found each other without it. Like, we wouldn't be sitting here doing
Exactly.
this without it. And it's so cool.
It is.
But it does sort of, I don't know, it makes the world like bigger and smaller at the same time. It's really strange.
Yeah. And again, it's about finding balance and everything, you know, in that certain sense. But again, too, I think, you know, really really the base, or the point I'm making here too, ultimately, is that a garden, really, and growing your own food, or whether it's, you know, growing your food, you could be a flower person, it doesn't matter, but gardening and growing is a good way to create a space that can be welcoming to others, that you can bring into, you know, your life, and, like you said, create friendships, learn more, you know, about things that you don't know as much about, you know, a lot of these sort of things, and just kind of reestablish this our sense of neighborliness and community and that sort of stuff. And I think gardening is a great way to go about doing that, or at least a starting point for it.
For sure.
Everybody loves plants, everybody loves a garden, and everybody loves good fresh food.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Right on. So again, too, I want to kind of get back. I mean, because I started off on one place and we went somewhere else, but you know what?
Sorry
That's
about
the
that.
fun. No, that's me too, man. I really kind of tried to take it somewhere else there, but no, I think they're great points and fun things to talk about as well too. But I think we were kind of touching on something as well too, you know, with the idea of, you know, taking that next step for some of the young folks who are, like I say, coming out of high school, going into college, thinking about what they're going to do next and all of that, you know. So we were kind of talking about careers and these things, and these, like, there's a ton of ideas and tons of things out there that people can think about doing as far as jobs in the plant world and agriculture and all of that. And programs like yours at Texas Tech are a great place for, you know, kids coming out of high school to take that next step.
Yeah, for sure. And there's obviously I'm biased. I think we do a pretty good job, but
Yeah.
there's great programs all over the country, and I think,
Hmm.
I think a good piece of advice maybe as we're talking about this is like really getting a feel, and it's hard sometimes, right? But like as you
Yeah.
if you're someone thinking about going and finding a college program, like going and getting a feel for what the culture is there, like what the people are like, if it's somewhere you want to spend 4 or 5 years of your life.
Yeah.
Um, because there's lots of good universities and we go to different places for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's, oh, they offered me a scholarship, so I'm going there, and I totally get that.
Yeah, it
Or,
makes sense.
or it's close to home or whatever. But I think like sometimes I think students coming into college don't realize like how much every bit of their life will revolve around that program for four or
Yeah.
5 years or more.
Right.
And so like going and meeting some professors, meeting some other students, and like we do tours all the time, and like if we have students coming to tour and figure out like if our program is right for them, we try to get them to meet as many people as possible. Like let's go
Yeah.
talk to the department chair, let's go talk to these professors, let's go take a tour of the greenhouse, whatever. um because
Do you
it's really
find
gonna.
that do you find a lot of these students or prospective students that come in, do they kind of already have a sense of what they're looking to do? Or, I mean, have they already been kind of maybe inspired before they got there and have a direction and they're just taking the next step? Or do you find a lot of them are kind of finding that within that next step, the program itself? Like they're coming and going, well, I know I
Hmm.
want to do something in this general area, but then find themselves directed, in an area maybe they didn't even think of before they got into your program.
Right. I think that's pretty common. I think we see a lot of students coming in that are interested in agriculture because of whatever, right? They did 4-H or FFA in high school. They grew up on a farm. They come from a, ag community and ag background, whatever. Uh, and I think sometimes we do occasionally have students that come in that are like, I know exactly what I want to do. I know why I'm here. I know why I'm doing it. Uh, and then they go through the program. They're very focused and driven. And then I think more commonly, though, and I was this student, I was like, I don't really know. Like, I know I'm interested in this, but I don't know what, like, where that goes or what it means or whatever. And so we come in and uh, try to give them lots of experiences, try to give them sort of different perspectives. And then as they start to dial in, we try to steer them
Mm.
in that direction. Like if I have a student that decided a little while in that they wanted to do um, like international agriculture work, like going and helping teach people
Mm.
to be more efficient in developing nations and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And so we started, all right, what sustainability classes can we put you in? Could we get you in a class that talks about like education and organization? And could we get you in a business class that could like, so I think a lot of times we can come up with really good ideas um, as people learn about themselves and learn about what it is that they care about and what matters for them. And then, um, we can help build a degree plan and help build a
Yeah.
contacts and good internships and a network for those students so that as they're getting through their degree, like they're not, I think for a while, a
Mhm.
lot of college programs were, and I see us in some ways still falling into this, and I see us shifting out of it in some ways. It was like, let's just get them through. Let's get them in. Let's get them in classes and let's get them graduated. When really it should be, we're trying to build our next sort of generation of leaders of society. And I
Yeah.
think, um, like as educators, as faculty, as universities, we should be really looking at our students and sort of the whole picture of what they want to do with their lives, what they can offer, finding the skills they naturally have and helping them develop that, and then
Mhm.
using our networks, which we build over time, to really plug them in where we can. And um, again, I'm biased, but we've got some great faculty in our college
Yeah.
who really care about students first,
Yeah.
and making sure they're placed well and that they have the tools they need and all of that. And so, like, it's one of the reasons I'm proud to keep working there. That I am happy to be a part of it, is because I think
Yeah.
we really place our students where they need to be in our focus as educators.
Yeah. Well, I love that because that's just, we all know. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got some sort of experience at some point in their life when, they've looked up to a teacher or someone who's, spent the time to show them and help them find a direction and all of that too. And it's always great to see folks like yourself who are student oriented. This is the most important thing in shaping their direction and all of that too. And so again, like you said, it's just really important that we are also bringing up our young folks. I guess I consider myself this old now, but these kids now to understand their future and what part they can play in it. But the big part of the future is food production. And we're looking at changing landscape in so many different ways when it comes to that. So it's really important to be able to teach and guide them towards these directions so that they can find some of these solutions to things. We're talking climate change is a big issue, I'm sure, for a lot of farmers or and that sort of thing as well too. So sure, there's a lot of thinking going on with students and all of that right now in your school when it comes to things like that as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a big thing we talk about in my sustainable production classes is, the things that we grew well here 10 years ago, the things that we grow well here today, will they still do that?
Yeah.
Like, can we still use the same practices? Can we still grow the same things? Do we have to look at different crops? Do we have to look at better technological advances and breeding work in the crops that we're growing today?
Exactly.
And so absolutely, that's a big topic of conversation. And, how do we become more resilient against it? How do we build against systems or biological systems or social systems or production systems that are more resilient to that,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's certainly as well as it's real dry where I live.
Right. Yeah.
And so we talk about water a lot and
Yeah.
conserving water and using more water or water more efficiently.
Mhm.
My university or my college actually has a water center, and we work with the Texas Water Development Board to try to come up with better irrigation tech, more water smart plants, better practice to make sure that we're being good stewards of our resources and that we're trying to make sure that the things that we can do today, our grandkids and their grandkids can still do, 200 years from now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also speaking of the future, Shawnee Groves asked this question just a little bit earlier. How do you feel about AI coming into the gardening world, developing smart gardens, connected to weather, pests, soil, more technology? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's got to be a big part of some of this stuff that's coming in. These kids are coming up and learning, and the next generation of kids are going to be even more on top of AI. It'll be a central part of what they're bringing to anything. So it's definitely going to be a big part of it, right?
For sure. Oh, it's funny. I had a faculty thing yesterday, and this was something we talked about a little bit. Is how does AI fit in our classrooms for one thing, but how does it fit in our field? I think that I have a lot of mixed feelings and complicated feelings about AI.
I think we all do, really, when it comes down to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are problems with how it's developed. There are problems with how it's trained. These are my opinions. Take this for what it is. How AIs are built, but as a tool,
yeah.
I think if we use it ethically and we use it carefully, it's got so much potential. I know someone up at Cornell in New York that's researching these for horticulture operations, for food production operations, these laser weeding robots. I don't know if you've seen these. They're these big Yeah, they're these big, like cube-shaped tractors, and they have high throughput lasers on the bottom of them. But it's all driven by AI, and they train the AI on what the crop looks like and what weeds look like in the field. And
Okay.
so they can burn up like something like I mean, I don't remember how much space they cover and how quickly or whatever, like the details, but essentially they roll through the fields and it's cool to watch because you just see these little weeds just burst into flame as it's shooting lasers
Do they?
and the
So
crop.
they're like little mobile, like little remote cars or whatever, but they run themselves.
Yep.
Or something. They're
Yep.
on wheels.
Wheels or
Okay.
tracks.
Wow.
And so they just like it's a big cube. It looks like a I don't know, like a big washing machine out in the field. It has again lasers on the bottom. And so these
Yeah.
AI cameras are scanning the field, saying, okay, that one's a lettuce plant, that's a Pomeraniath, that's a dandelion,
Yeah.
whatever. And it just uses a little pulse and it burns up the weeds. And the thought here is that it'll reduce pesticide application. It will make us more efficient. It saves water because like we're only watering the plants we want.
Mm-hmm.
Saves fertilizer, saves all these things. And so when we think about AI technology, like there are places that I think it will be super useful.
Yeah.
It could be super useful. I think we can't get too far away, or we need to be mindful and careful of getting too far away from people knowing those same things, like training good farm workers and farm owners and agriculturists. And I agree with that. Robots on a commercial scale may be needed more now than ever. I think there's some truth
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
I think there will always be the human element because we need someone to train these things. We need someone to really
Mhm.
evaluate the conditions. But we have an AI driven like robot at our research farm that does planting for us, or it can do planting for us for seeds
Yeah.
or transplants. It can do fertilization. It can set up watering systems. It does all kinds of stuff. And we just use it for research, but like that stuff's out there.
Yeah.
Our landscape architecture department actually has, it kind of looks like a 3D printer or either a 3D printer or like a CNC machine. It's like this big
Yeah.
rail with a robot on it, and it fits on top of a big raised bed. And so this thing has
Yeah, I've seen some. They had like a commercial sort of one that I saw a few years back. I haven't seen it recently, but yeah, it was like a little garden robot, and it kind
yeah.
of runs on like I guess it would be just like a up and down, left and right.
Mhm.
It can bring itself anywhere within the grid.
Yeah,
It
and it
just
can plant
wow.
things, it can water,
Yeah,
it can
attach a
either
laser and it can do some weeding.
yeah.
That's the
Uh
next version, right?
yeah, and so like it's again, is everyone going to have this in your backyard? No, obviously
Right,
not. You still
right.
need to know which weeds to pull and how much to water and all that. Like, but I
Mhm.
think when we think about scale, when we think about how many people we're probably going to have to feed by 2050,
Yeah,
um, we're talking
yeah,
about these controlled environment production systems. Like, if they could largely run themselves with just a little oversight, they can run 24/7.
yeah,
They can grow things constantly, and
yeah,
there's a lot tied up in that. Uh, but I
yeah.
think that here's my opinion. I think both in the classroom, in the field, whatever else, AI is here.
Yep.
Like it's here.
Yeah.
So our options are we let people who don't understand the garden, that don't understand our food systems, make those choices on how to use it in our systems. Or we can be involved in the process and we can influence the process and we can make it the uh, best tool possible, right?
Yeah.
I think there's lots of tools throughout time that have been used unethically and poorly. There's lots of tools that have been used well. And I think the way that we drive it as a society is what
Mhm.
determines which way it's going to go. So I think in terms of AI, it's here. Like, let's use it as well as we can. Let's be responsible with it.
Yeah.
Let's have a hand in steering that ship.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on that same thought pattern with it in a sense. And at first, of course, AI, and you get all of the, especially for us who are old enough, remember when the Matrix came out, and
Yeah.
you're thinking like, oh no, we're all gonna become batteries for a computer system someday, and so there's a lot of that initial thought about a lot of stuff. And again, it does raise awareness of what the dangers of certain things can be, maybe a little extreme in that case, but
Sure.
yet there's reality, little bits of reality in some of that too, and thinking of like what we could do that's not good with it. But there's a ton of really good things that can come out of this if we're utilizing these technologies ethically. And you made a great point, is this is just a generational thing that every generation has basically had to deal with for a long time, all the way back to the wheel, probably. Right, is that there's always a new technology. We're always trying to create efficiencies, bringing new things to what we're doing with things, and we've got to be aware of what does that mean down the road, especially more so as we're getting highly technological now. Versus, this isn't the wheel anymore. This is some really, really mind-bending things. It's hard to wrap our minds around a lot of it.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think what I think gets people nervous, and I sympathize with this, is how quickly things have changed in the last, say, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You look back at the sort of like you were talking about, the scale of human innovation,
Yeah.
from the time that we figured out agriculture, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, if we take this corn plant and harvest the biggest ones and plant those, then we can get bigger corn, right? When
Yeah,
we started figuring out and that's technology, right? Like that's
exactly. Yeah.
innovation. From there, and you look at over the scale of human development, and then in the last 15 years, 20 years, how much things have changed. I think that's where people get hung up sometimes. And again, I have a lot of sympathy for that, because it is kind of unprecedented how much we've advanced since I was a kid, right? I grew up in the 90s.
And it is bigger in a real sense. It's like I was saying, is that these technologies are like, there's mind-bending things. But then you also kind of think about that. Imagine what it was like for people when they first started seeing airplanes flying across the sky. You
Right.
know what I mean? That was pretty mind-bending. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then, so that it is a part of kind of what it is. And we just got to be able to take the time it's going to take to wrap our mind around things, and hopefully along that process, find the proper ways to do that to mitigate some people's fears of what, the future is, because there's a lot of really, really cool stuff, and especially in the gardening and growing world. One of the things I've been really fascinated with really lately too is this idea of, of course everybody knows we got somebody out there who wants to make a trip to Mars, or a trip to the moon or something like that, and set up things and all of that. But one of the cool things, if you're to take that thought process and go down that adventure or whatever, one of the big parts of that whole process, and NASA has whole facilities dedicated to this stuff, is growing food. They know if they're going to ever make that sort of trip, and maybe we do it in our lifetime. I don't know if there's going to be, but if we do, we're going to have to figure out how to grow things along the way.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. One of our professors, I guess right around late 90s, early 2000s, had actually a research program with NASA, and they were doing hydroponics in space, looking at how do we, plants are so driven by, which makes sense, right? They live here, they're from here. They're driven by our gravitational cycles, where the sun is, the temperature differences to push them along through their life cycle. I mean, knowing how to grow stuff if we end up on Mars is going to be pretty valuable, I think.
That's right.
But well, I mean, that's a big sort of discussion when we think about like growing plants in space. Is so far they haven't, or at least some of the early trials, they don't really grow right because they don't have like gravity to signal which way different things should flow through the plant. Having like not a single like point source of light sort of messes up the way they grow.
Mhm.
And so there is so much research that goes into how do we take things that know how to do the thing here
Yeah,
and put them on a space station or put them somewhere else. And we're not there yet. I think
right.
we've made some advances in that, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. They're working on it though too, and it just kind of makes me think, it's like, so who is NASA hiring for these programs? Do you think maybe some kids in your program at Texas Tech, maybe some other programs around the country, there's again, kind of coming back to this idea of the jobs or careers and things. We can go futuristic with it when it comes down to it as well too. You never know. You might get recruited to figure out how to get a plant to take up water in space and all of that as
Yeah.
well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's, if this is something that as a species we're going to try to do, I think there's going to be so much demand in the future for, again, more innovative kinds of growing technologies.
Mhm.
They're doing a lot right now to like containerize, like, because we were talking about growth, like you can buy a farm in a box. Essentially, it's a shipping container that
Yeah.
you can grow like lettuce and greens and stuff in.
Yeah.
They'll grow something like 4,200 heads of lettuce or something.
Right.
Uh, and it's a shipping container that they can drop anywhere that there's power and water. And like, how do we take those really, I mean, honestly, very cool technologies and maybe we spin them to simulate gravity. Maybe we do stuff under thrust to simulate gravity. Maybe
Yeah.
we come up with ways that the plants don't need that. And I feel like the future is, we're living in a sci-fi movie right now.
It's
Uh,
something else, isn't it?
it's weird. Um, for better or worse, we're sort of living in a sci-fi movie, and like,
Mhm.
uh, I think the future is kind of wide open. I think,
Yeah. Things that, generations before us were only really kind of imagining in some sense, and they'd only really recently come to be able to possibly imagine some of that stuff. We in this generation right now are actually seeing things come alive and happening. We don't really have to imagine a lot of things, really. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
And that's what I think in Agrin too. And really fun that the discussion kind of went in this direction today too, is that, you know, whether it's the past, the future, whatever is going on for us people, food is involved. Growing food is involved. Gardening and farming or something like that is a part of all of it when it comes down to it. I think that's one of the more kind of fun, fascinating things about the ideas of gardening and growing is all of these just crazy possibilities, that we can take it to and thinking
Mhm.
about. And everywhere, like I said, everywhere we go and we're thinking about it, whether it's a trip to Mars or doing things in other places, food and food production is a huge part of what we're going to be doing. And again, I think it's really kind of cool that you're out teaching this next generation too about some of these great possibilities right there in programs like at your university.
Well, we're trying. We're trying. We,
Yeah.
we try to move the needle a little bit wherever we can, and um, yeah, I have a colleague that we think about doing research. We think about actually mushrooms are a great food source. There's a lot to the
It really would be.
mushroom. Yeah, mushrooms are weird. Um, but actually
Yeah.
there's a lot of people talking about that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we can grow them into packaging and all kinds of stuff too. There's a lot we can do with mushrooms. Um, what I was trying to say is, I have a colleague that when we talk about technological advancement, scientific advancement, and the research that we do, his thing is that we should always be defaulting towards life. Like, what is going to make the planet healthier? What's going to fight some of the things that we deal with, like pollution and climate change and food
Mhm.
and water supply? What's going to make people's lives healthier and happier and better? And I think as long as we hold on to that as our driving force behind the research that we do, then we're going to be okay. Um,
Yeah.
Again, it's slow, it's repetitive. The things we try don't always work, but it's a long sort of learning process that we develop. Science is iterative and constantly challenging itself and constantly trying to be better, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, and where it should go as well. It's just that's and yeah, so much great stuff. Let's see here. A question was what's a good peer-reviewed journal to read for the latest scientific gardening updates?
Ooh, that
Hmm.
is a great question.
Oh,
Let me think. I'm trying to think if there's a couple just off the top of my head.
I'm sure like even
Um,
just some general science journals would probably cover a lot of like plants and gardening as those sort of things come up, right?
yeah, a good place to do it, and sometimes I hesitate, like recommending academic journals just because one, there's a lot of gatekeeping, and two, some of them are not written to be accessible. But if you look at like Nature or Science, like the big journals, Nature, Science, they
Yeah.
have sort of a Nature Communications and Science Communications, just websites, and they post more like accessible, easier to read, easier to digest articles about that stuff. And if you get on there, you can sort of sort through and be like, I'm interested in plant science or gardening or conservation or nuclear physics. I don't know, whatever it is.
Right.
Um, that's where I like to go sometimes if I want to keep up on some of what's happening without having to like reread a journal article 3 times to try to figure out. And like I write these things, right? Like I'm a scientist, and sometimes I read these and I'm just like, oh my god, what are we doing?
Right.
So like I love Science Communications and Nature Communications for that. I think they are excellent resources. Again, stuff is written to be accessible, and easy to
Yeah.
consume, but really interesting, cutting edge, up to the minute kind of stuff.
Yeah, you say easy to consume, but it's sometimes these scientific articles are written for scientists. So in the long run, they do get kind of nerdy and big wordy and all of that sort of stuff.
Oh
So
man,
yeah, good to find places where people can break that down for you and all of that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Right on, right on. Well, let's see here. What else do we got going on? Again, too, you have your social media, Instagram mostly, right? The Plant Prof.
Yeah, right now I'm mostly doing Instagram. I had a pretty active TikTok, and then I broke my phone, and I had to
Oh,
get a new phone. And because of all the
oh
stuff going on
no,
with
you
TikTok
can't
right now,
download it.
I can't re-download it.
Oh no,
So I'm
oh no.
off TikTok for the moment. I do have a YouTube channel that I'm not very active on and need to be.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think right now Instagram's probably my biggest outlet. I'm the Plant Prof everywhere though, wherever you want to find me.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I sort of have taken a break through the beginning of this year just to sort of I was a little burned out on it, if we're being
Right,
honest.
right.
But I'm trying to get back into doing gardening content. I
Yeah,
have a podcast that's starting back up next week
yeah.
called Plant
Plant Prof.
Propology.
Yeah. So you starting that
Um,
back up next week?
I am. I took a long
Nice.
hiatus, sort of have rethought how I want to do it.
Okay.
Um, so I'll be doing a couple of just solo episodes, talking about, actually the first episode back, hopefully it's going to come out next week, is going to be sort of a gardening 101. What are some things you need to think about when you're starting a home garden?
Yeah.
Um, and then that'll probably be like a 2 or 3 parts little series. And then I've got some great interviews coming up after that, with cool plant people. Um,
Right
I wrote a
on.
book called
Yeah,
Plants to the
yeah. I was gonna
Rescue.
mention that too. Yeah. Author of Plants to the Rescue as well.
It's a kid's book about all the cool technology and all the science we're doing in plants.
Right.
Some of it's like theoretical science, what is on the horizon. Some of it is, what's our past? What's the past of agriculture and
Yeah.
breeding plants? And it's written for like 8 to 11-year-olds, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they just like enjoy having it on the bookshelf. The art
Yeah.
illustrator Brian Lambert. I mean, it's just beautiful artwork, really fun
Yeah.
artwork, and um, something I'm really proud of. So if
Looks
you've got
great.
kids that are interested in gardening, I think this is a good one. And there's a lot of other good like kids plants books out there. So I would recommend find a couple that your kids like, and it's a great place to start with getting them interested in the garden.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's a great book there too. I got to get a copy of it for my granddaughter. Although she's still got a few years to go before she'll be able to read.
Well,
We got to get
we'll
her a
talk.
copy of that one for sure.
We'll talk after. I'll get you a signed one.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. But yeah, again, too, really important. Again, start with the young kids, and that's what I think that's really great. That your book, that you put out is for young kids. Get them started, get their minds going, and all of that, and then you're topping off their education at the university level and sending them out into the real world with really great careers in agriculture and gardening and all of that. Also, again, too, I want to mention too, I think if you haven't checked out the Plant Prof too, though, get to the Instagram right now. I guess that's a great place to see reels, because I think you have some of the most fun reels where you're just
Thanks.
putting down, you're just putting in place. And this is one of the things that really drives me crazy about social media sometimes in the gardening world, are all of these kind of like gardening myths and fads. And you got a ton of really great reels where you're just tearing some of these things up and everything like that. So before we finish up, I did want to ask you real quick, what's some of your favorite garden myths or fads that you've done reels about?
These people love their bananas. I swear.
Yes,
like
I was gonna say
it's always the banana ones.
Mhm.
Like some of them are obviously absurd, right? You watch, I got the first one I ever saw that a friend sent me right as I started doing social media stuff was they took like half a kiwi, half a banana, and like zip tied them together and planted it, and then had some weird hybrid plant come up. And I was like, that's not how any of this works, right? That's seedless banana. Like, that's not how that works. But then there's some old like garden myths, like that have like a grain of truth to them. So the one that drives me to crazy the most, and people will disagree with me on that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But some of these people will take like a banana peel and like stick it in a jug of water and pour hot water on it and let it set for 15 minutes. And they're like, this is a miracle fertilizer. Now, if you were to give it 2 weeks to let all that stuff break down and all that stuff like work, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
But like the way that it's presented, the best thing you're going to get is fruit flies. If you like fruit flies,
Right.
awesome. If
Yeah.
not, so that one pops up a lot. I saw one where they got a strawberry and covered it in toothpaste. I don't know why.
Toothpaste.
And then stuck a toothpick through it and set it in a glass of water, and then had like a big strawberry plant coming out of it. I'm like, that's not how any of this works. We're just making stuff up. So,
yikes. Got a good cough going right now. Sorry.
Oh, you're all right. But, yeah,
Lost my ability to breathe.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, no doubt. What about eggshells?
Eggshells are another one of these that are like, again, plausible. I think eggshells are great in your compost. I think put eggshells in your compost. Most of the data shows that if we bury them directly in the garden, unless you have really acidic soil, they don't break down fast enough to do much good. Eventually, I do not recommend planting eggs under your tomatoes, like whole eggs. I've seen a lot of these videos where people like crack an egg into into the hole they dug and they put a tomato in it. I would not recommend that.
No.
Eggshells, perfect for your compost. Great source of nutrients for your compost. Probably keep them out of your house plants, because that's not a smell you want.
Right. Oh my. I'll be able to breathe here real soon. Oh boy. Anyways, yeah, so lots of great stuff there too. So I encourage everybody to go check out your Instagram and check out some of those things. I just think that's some of the fun stuff. You don't see very many people really kind of going after some of these things that we see out there. That's just really kind of crazy. I agree with you. The banana ones all the time. Or one I saw where they scrape out like the really unviable seeds of a banana.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, you see like little baby peppers popping up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. That's a good one.
But yeah, but again though too, this is one of those things that just gets kind of annoying though for a lot of us garden educators out there too, though, is these people putting this misinformation stuff out there, that seems maybe kind of funny to some of us with a bit of experience or whatever. But for a lot of new gardeners, this is kind of like, wow, really? I can do that? Kind of just sets them off on some really kind of, I don't know, unproductive tangents in their gardening education, right?
Exactly. And like at the end of the day, like there's a lot to gardening, but it doesn't have to be it's that complicated, right? And I think people want whatever the garden version is of like a get rich quick scheme. Like what's the least work I can do for the most benefit, when like composting works great. Throw things in the compost. That's what I tell people, like save your banana peels, save your eggshells. They are great, but put them in the compost and just be patient,
Yeah.
And so giving people, again, I think growing your own plants and growing your own food is very empowering. And I think that as creators and educators, we should be giving people the tools they need to do that as well as they can.
Yeah, because I don't know, we talked to someone a couple weeks back, it might have been with Jenna from Growfully with Jenna, and talking about how like 70% of new gardeners, quit after their first year, because again, it's probably a lot of this stuff coming with the idea of just not being successful with things. And when people are like, oh no, I killed this plant, or I've done this and this didn't work out or something like that, then they think that they're just not able to do it.
Right.
And then they give up. And again, too, if you're watching some videos thinking, oh, I want to grow this bananas, and they're telling you to take the banana seeds out of the bananas you bought from the store, and you're seeing little peppers pop up. You don't know those are peppers, and you think, oh, this is going to work. And then next thing you know, here you are. Oh, that just turned into a mess and isn't anything. And then there goes your if you're one of those 70%, there goes another future gardener.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So it's good that you're doing what you're doing out there and debunking these garden myths and fads mostly. But again, pretty wild, all the stuff that goes on out there.
Absolutely.
Right on, Vikram. What a great day, man. What an awesome conversation, too. Really, really great to have you here with us today and talk about all this sort of stuff. So again, I want to thank you for spending your time with us today. Just really awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, too, if you guys haven't checked out the Plant Prof, I've got links down below, and go check him out there. Go see if you can get yourself a copy of his book there, or again, to subscribe to his Instagram or YouTube. You said you might put out some more YouTube stuff, right?
Planning to trying to put out some longer format content this spring and summer. So yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah. So go subscribe to his YouTube as well, and go find a post, go find something recent, and go jump on and leave him a comment. Let him know you saw him here on the Let's Get Growing show. I really appreciate that when you guys do that there. So yeah, right on, man. Anything else we need to know before we let you go? Anything you want to let us know about?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of ground, and it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. Well, again, I really appreciate you taking your time to be here with us, and I really, really look forward to seeing you again here on another episode of Let's Get Growing.
Definitely.
Excellent. Thanks, Vikram.
Thanks.
Oh boy. I need to, man, I gotta get a good breath in here. I'm telling you what, whew, choking there at the last of that interview. Anyways, I think I'm about all right. So again, thank you, Vikram, so much for being here today. What a great fun conversation, kind of talking about kind of the future of gardening and talking about some of these other things, gardening careers and all of that as well too. And again, like I said, a really great conversation. Thank you all, everybody, for joining with me here today to be here for this great show and conversation. Also, I want to mention too, we did have Charles on earlier. Charles Malky from Ivy Organic, our sponsor. And again, too, I want to mention I got a link down below in the description for their 8th annual free fig cutting giveaway. You want to get and take part of this free fig cutting giveaway. And like I said, there's a link to Ivy Organics down below, and use a promo code GROW10, GROW10, if you want to go get some of their 3-in-1 plant guard or something like that. And then again, they'll ship you out some of those varieties of fig cuttings, and you can get some figs growing in your garden this upcoming season. And nothing like figs. I'm telling you, I've got a few good varieties myself I've gotten from them over the last few years, and one of my favorite fruits for sure. And also, too, I just mentioned, I was mentioning just a minute ago, too, we had Growfully with Jenna from Growfully with Jenna on a couple weeks back. You want to go back and check out that conversation. That was a really fun show. Jenna has been on. She was on last year as well, too. So she came back to talk with us all about what she's got growing on this upcoming growing season. So you'll want to go back and check that out. And I mentioned that one. We didn't have a show last week. And all I did was kind of hang out with everybody on Sunday. And again, like I said, so we are here every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And you'll want to come and check us out tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got our Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. Again, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And it's the second Sunday of the month. So on the second Sunday of the month, we got our good friend, Master Gardener, Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel on with us tomorrow to answer all of your gardening questions. He joins with us every month to answer all of those things that you guys need to know to get your best garden growing in the 2025 growing season. And then also too, next Sunday, so our next couple of Sundays, third Sunday of the month, we do our monthly gardening book club. And this month's book is What We Sow by Jennifer Jewell. So next Sunday, we'll have Jennifer Jewell on the show with my good friend Mark Boucher Colbert co-hosting, and we will talk all about this great book, What We Sow. I've been reading it. It's a really great book. I'm really looking forward to talking with Jennifer all about that as well too for our next Sunday edition of the show. And then we'll also again to be back next Saturday as well, like I said, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And next Saturday on the show we'll have with us, hopefully we'll make this happen. Last time we had to push it off because our friend Kyle Haggerty from the Urban Farmstead is also a firefighter. So when he was scheduled to be on the show last time, he got called out to some fires and couldn't make it. So hopefully we'll make sure we get that conversation with him in next Saturday as well too. So you want to make sure that you're following along with us here on the Urban Gardener channel and all of our great Let's Get Growing shows here. And be sure to check out some of these great fun conversations. And before you go too, definitely click that like button before you go, hit the thumbs up and subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and share with all of your garden friends out there and let them know about the Let's Get Growing show. And like I said too, follow all the links down in the description below to all of our guests and our other social media as well too. So again, it's been such a wonderful day hanging out with all of you here. And I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow for our Sunday edition of the show with Gardener Scott. And we'll see all of you then.